Good day. Welcome to the Two Savage for Democrats podcast here for a number of segments that we're going to be doing. Again, this is my second channel. Like I say at the beginning of every single one, I need to figure out a way that I don't have to repeat this every single time I start the show. It's just like, hey, welcome to the show. Let's do it. But I feel like I do have to repeat that this is my second channel. My main channel is Dylan's Daily Show. This channel is set up in more of a podcast form for you guys. And so as you've noticed over the past couple of months, since the election, and even a little bit before the election, the United States seems really focused on Russia. Like, hey, we need to watch out for Russia. They're doing a bunch of evil stuff. They're going over they're being oppressive to other countries and making a bunch of military moves, and we need to watch out for them. Putin's a war criminal and everything like that. And they're being really aggressive towards Russia. Now, my question is why are we only focusing on Russia? You know, like, I agree, if Russia's doing stuff that's not good, we should definitely go after Russia, but there are a lot of other countries that are doing stuff similar and that are being completely ignored. And I think the reason is that because the Democrats have a problem with the Russians right now, because they are under some assumption that Putin and whatever hacking he may have done caused Donald Trump to win the election and threw the election for Hillary Clinton. Which isn't the case at all. So China is actually being much more aggressive than Russia in these areas. The Chinese military engaged in multiple exercises near Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan this week, forcing all three nations to scramble jets, while Beijing officials insisted the display of force was normal. Of course they're going to say it's normal, because they don't want any hype to be up. Now, again, they're doing stuff like this. We get mad at Putin for doing small stuff like this all the time. We want to go invade Russia and start World War III with Russia. Hillary Clinton literally spoke about a no-fly zone in Syria, which would start conflict with Russia. It's like, can we just get out of the Middle East at some point, or do we have to be in there all the time? I don't understand. But then they completely ignore what China's doing because, they somehow think that Russia through the election. On Monday, China deployed at least 8 warplanes to fly over the Korean Strait and through Japan and South Korea's air defense identification zone, in addition to flying over numerous islands claimed by both nations. The South China Morning Post notes that neither nation claims China violated their airspace, but Chinese Air Force fighter jets did enter the ADIZ, which is the Air Defense Identification Zone, of both nations, and prompted both South Korean military and the Japanese self-defense forces to scramble fighter jets. The Japanese newspaper, are you scrambling words here, Asahi Shimbun, all right, that's their newspaper, described the exercise as featuring, quote, the largest Chinese squadron to fly over the Tsushima Strait, which separates South Korea from Nagasaki Prefecture. Asahi does not add up that it appears that the Chinese pilots had conversations with their South Korean counterparts upon entering the zone, identifying the reason for their presence there as training. A Chinese government news outlet dismissed Japanese concerns with the operation, citing a Beijing-based air defense expert who argued that Japan had, quote, overreacted to the exercises and, quote, may have wanted to deliberately hype up any event and act as troublemakers. This isn't the first thing China's been doing. China's been acting very aggressive recently. I mean, they're building those massive islands in the South China Sea, and they made their first aircraft, their first, how pathetic is that? They have one aircraft carrier, but they're building up these massive islands, and they have been seeming to be very, very showing off, I guess. They're showing off their military in a very strange way. It's kind of like they're trying to be aggressive. It's like they're jealous of how we're focusing on Russia, and they want our attention, but we just won't give it to them. And so Japanese officials appear to disagree. Quote, there was likely an aim of keeping cooperation between Japan, the United States, and South Korea in check, a high-ranking SDF official told the newspaper in Japan. A different unnamed officer speculated that the exercise could be, quote, sending a message to the United States President-elect Donald Trump, who is trying to deepen ties with Taiwan. It's not even that Donald Trump's trying to deepen ties with Taiwan. It's just that he's making leverage by saying, hey, we will recognize Taiwan and get rid of this one China policy if you don't start trading fairly. And I do see that as what's going on here. I do think that China is trying to flex its military muscle as a warning sign to Donald Trump. because a lot of countries tend to do that. China knows they're in trouble as soon as Donald Trump wins the election. They know that when he wins, there's going to be a lot of changes to the trade policy that they have currently, where China can just manipulate their currency, bring us into these massive trade deficits, and not do anything about it. They realize that that's a problem, so they're flexing their kind of military muscles to try and prevent that. Now, a less opinionated, oriented state outlet warns of a prolonged feud between the two nations over the issue of Japan's use of South Korean women as sex slaves during World War II. I mean, again, we don't really know why they're doing this, but what we do know is that they are doing it, right? They are doing it. And it's causing a problem, because it makes us look like we're stupid, because we're focusing so heavily on Russia and what Russia's doing, but we're completely ignoring what China's doing. So I think we need to start paying attention to both, or else it clearly looks like going after Russia is just because of politics, like Vladimir Putin's been saying. He says, oh, look, the Americans are only going after me because, Hillary Clinton lost and they're mad. They want someone to blame for their horrible candidate. That's what they're saying. And it seems like that's a reality when China is doing stuff like that as well, and we're not doing anything about it. We are not doing anything to try and prevent China from being aggressive in that area. In addition to alarming both Japan and South Korea, the Chinese military flew H-6 strategic bomber over the disputed territory in the South China Sea this weekend. Specifically, the aircraft flew over the Spratly Islands, which belong to Vietnam and the Philippines, but China has claimed it as its own and equipped it with military surveillance and facilities. So, again, I want to get your guys' opinion on this down below. Should we be paying attention to China, or should we just let China do their thing? Let me know in the comments down below. That is it for segment 1 of the Two Savage Democrats podcast. We have a lot more to talk about, so let's move on.